we've got a very special treat. Jack Sinclair, the CEO of Sprouts Farmers Market, brings over 35 years of powerhouse experience in retail and grocery. And since stepping into his role at Sprouts in 2019, he's been driving fresh thinking and dramatic growth. Before Sprouts, Jack was the CEO of 99 cents only stores, where he brought value and innovation to more than 350 locations across the US. And before that, he led the charge as Chief Merchandising Officer, where he helped drive massive growth across 4,000 stores at Walmart. Jack's journey began here with leadership roles at Safeway PLC in the UK, and he served on the board of Hain Celestial Group. Today, Jack is shaping the future of our industry, serving on the board of the Food and Industry Association and leading the charge of change with Sprouts' foraging program, which every founder in this room is going to learn about, and it's special. It's an honor to have Jack back in the UK where it all began. Welcome, Jack.
Cheers. Do you want me to go out now?
No, just hang on. They're gonna.
Give it up. So every guy or gal that is creating a beverage brand in the United States would literally kill or die to have the kind of access that you've all had with Jack today at networking breaks, you'll have at the happy hour. It's a very big deal, and the reason is Sprouts is the place where you start. Sprouts is incredible. They have something called the foraging program, which we're going to dive into. But before we do that, Jack, you have a very unique perspective here because you're one of the few that have run huge retailers both here in Europe and in the US. I'll speak to the US, and I'd love for you to talk to your experiences. But Jack, at one point, there was no one that bought more food or beverage on the planet than Jack when he was the chief merchant at Walmart. It is incredible. And at Sprouts, when he got there 5 years ago, the stock was at about $15. Today, there are a lot of happy Sprouts employees, a lot of happy shareholders. The stock's well over $100, and it's just been an incredible run that you've had, Jack. So I know you're not comfortable with me bragging on you, but it needs to be said. So tell us a little bit about your journey, Jack, and how you ended up where you're at.
Do you want to brag a bit more? I'm okay with that.
Give me an hour to stop that. Yeah.
The journey's been. I've been a grocery guy all my career. I started in a company called Shoppers Paradise back in the 1983, which was part of the Fine Fair Group. I then went to work for Tesco. Then I went to work for Safeway PLC, and I had 15 years with Safeway PLC before we merged the business with Morrison's in 2005. And at that point, I left the UK, and I got an opportunity to go and run Walmart's grocery business in the United States. Moving from London to Bentonville, Arkansas was an interesting cultural experience. When I told my wife that we were thinking of going to America, she said, "Oh, great, New York, Chicago, Los Angeles," and no, Bentonville, Arkansas, which was fun. We had to check out where it was on the map, but it was a fantastic opportunity for me to get involved with one of the largest the largest grocery business in the world. So that was a lot of fun. I then went, as you said, Danny, I went to work for 99 cents in a private equity capacity, and then got this opportunity at Sprouts in 2019. And it's been kind of a company that I'd always admired from afar. And the video tried to give a little example of how different we are, low profile. You can see all the way through produce at the back. Grocery stores tend to have produce at the front. Then they don't. We have meat at the front, grocery at the back, bulk foods at a bigger level than anyone else, vitamins and supplements. And a lot of the conversations I've been having today, the principle of food is medicine. We don't have pharmacies. We're probably the only grocery store in the US that doesn't have pharmacies. And that idea that people can be healthy by consuming the right stuff, as opposed to go to the pharmacy to get drugs to make you better, having bought the wrong stuff in the first place. And that's where we position ourselves. We position ourselves as, how do we help people live and eat better? And that's the kind of position, and that's the idea of the store profile. And it's been a lot of fun, Danny, getting involved in it.
So when I asked Jack to come here, it was kind of a big ask, right, to come all the way across the ocean. But he was very, accommodating, and it wasn't for me, it was for you all. He wanted to find and forage new items, new products, new brands, and I think you've already found a few that are going to end up in Sprouts this past week, I believe. I know, actually. Yeah. So, Jack, you often speak of targeting health enthusiasts and innovation seekers. Rather trying to be everything to everyone, how do you balance specialization as you grow and scale? You're basically opening up a new store every week right now.
Yeah, well, we're excited about that, but there's plenty of places we can build some more stores going forward. We've got 455. We reckon there's 1,400 places in the United States that could have a Sprouts, and that's driven by that segmentation. One of the things I said when I took the job, having worked at Walmart for so many years, you're not going to beat Walmart on price on regular items. You're not going to beat Amazon on convenience online. What you have to do is find your niche. And this company's got a DNA that was always about healthy, fresh product. So this idea of splitting them, the US food market for groceries, $1.6 trillion. We said we're just going to go after 240 billion of it. And at the time we were $5 billion. So there's plenty of room for growth if you focus your energies. But what that does in a grocery environment means you're having to turn down basically $1.4 trillion worth of opportunity, which means we don't sell the traditional brands that you would see in the beverage category everywhere else. We don't sell Coke, we don't sell Pepsi, we don't sell Monster, we don't sell all the Red Bulls, all the things that are so traditional in a group. We just don't sell any of them. And all of the products we're selling are about being differentiated and carrying attributes that appeal to that health-conscious customer. And I've seen a lot of things here today that would make sense in terms of being able to move them over. We're also probably to the point of a fault, Danny. We're a bit strict. We don't want sucralose. And it can get in the way, because what we've got to find is products that work in the beverage category, both in terms of attributes and differentiation, but it needs to taste as well. And this dilemma of sugar and what to do with sugar replacements, I think, has been a kind of an interesting thing as the industry evolves going forward.
So we had a panel called Jumping Across the Pond earlier and talked about the pros and cons and of going across the U.S. and how big it is. At our dinner the other night, I can't remember, I think it was the Trip folks or you said, you could do more business in Dallas than you can do in the UK in some respects, which is amazing. Having worked with Tesco and Safeway over here and Walmart and Sprouts over there, you have a very unique perspective and skill set, working both in Europe and the USA. What is different? What translates? What's the same?
Well, I think the first thing that you when you sit here in the UK and you look at the US, you see it as a homogeneous thing. It's all the US, let's go to the US, how do we do it? But Florida, to drive from Tallahassee to Miami is the same distance as driving from Inverness to Plymouth. So Florida in itself is as big a market as the United Kingdom, both geographically and volume-wise. So there's 50 states, so there's this opportunity in the US, segmenting it into buckets because the markets are so different, the competition's so different, the people that are in different grocery retailers. I see the grocery retail space in the United States has got the very best in the world and the very worst in the world. I won't quote the worst in the world, but the best in the world, people like Wegmans and people like H-E-B and people like Publix in Florida, Meijer in Michigan. These are great, great grocery retailers. And it's interesting, the British retailers are more efficient. Tesco, Sainsbury's, ruthlessly efficient businesses. But they have to be when you've got so many people living close together, and a sales intensity in store requires really disciplined planograms. And it will be more difficult to get into a Tesco or a Sainsbury's than it will be getting into the US market. But simply because the space is at such a premium and it's hard to bring that innovation in. So that would be one of the dynamics, that this idea that you can do a US strategy doesn't seem to make sense to me. It needs to be a strategy very specifically to customer targeting. The other differences, I think, in the US is because of the geography, distribution becomes a bigger challenge. And where do you make things to distribute things? And this whole third party that's producing a lot of private labels and where they're positioned, it's a different dynamic than what operates here in the UK, where the distribution centers are all self-controlled. So there's a lot of differences, and to me, it's about segmenting the US a little bit into more buckets and chunks.
It's super interesting. So let's talk about innovation for a second. I've learned a lot about the difference in culture for founders here. I mean, in terms of Beverage, the founder entrepreneur culture in the US is insane, right? There's thousands of entrants. Retailers are less risk averse, it feels, these days, trying to address the consumer promiscuity. LA Libations and Sprouts together created the foraging program. It's something that we're both very proud of. You actually created a title for someone in your company called the Chief Foraging Officer. She's in the C-suite, and her job is to go find new stuff. Can you talk about how just obsessed you guys are with being first, being innovative?
Well, yeah, and the idea of a chief forager, and it's quite contrary. It's not a merchandising structure that you'll see in any other retailer, but the idea you've got merchants alongside foragers, I think we've made it work, but it's got potential conflicts of interest, and you experience it sometimes. But the reality for us is the foraging team are about going out to find things that no one else is selling, that fit with the target customer base, so attribute-based products, and they're scouring the world really to find those things, and they're doing as we get more down and get better at this, we've put an innovation table into our stores, which Danny was very much involved in helping us with. That takes 30 or 40 SKUs that are not in anywhere else, and we'll put that in the store and give it a chance and give it space. And our customers are getting excited, I think, by the kind of the foraging nature for them. The customer becomes a forager as well as the merchandising team having a forager. And Kim Coffin, our Chief Foraging Officer, probably has the best job in the world.
Best job title and best job, yeah.
I think I would like to do it, but nobody would give me the job. So the challenge for us is how do we keep reinventing ourselves? And what you'll find with us, it's a very good starting point to then evolve into bigger retailers. I think it's hard to start with, and this is a Walmart guy, and I love Walmart. This is a Walmart guy talking. To start with Walmart costs so much money because you have to buy the inventory and get it. So starting small and then gradually building. We've seen a lot of brands. Siete is a good example in the snacks category where we started it. Olipop, we started that product. And what happens is it gradually evolves and eventually it gets to Walmart, the successful ones. And I think the other thing about the foraging program, Danny, is we've got to be realistic. They're all not going to work. And how do you accept that? Is there's a challenge in terms of getting it to work. And if it's not going to work, you're better not making it work in Sprouts than making it not work in Walmart in terms of how that whole thing, you've got some experience of how that's evolved. So the foraging team are about bringing new products to us. They'll be attending events like this all over the place, trying to meet people like yourselves. And I'm certainly very excited about some of the people we've met here. And it's exciting. America is a better place for entrepreneurship than the United Kingdom. I don't know why that is, but it's the reality of it. And I'm involved I was at the University of Strathclyde in Glasgow, and I'm involved in an entrepreneurial fund there. And it's such hard work to get British people to be excited about entrepreneurs and different and making things exciting and different. That's what's inspiring about you guys. And just listening to the last panel, making people excited about the products and the differentiation and making things come alive that make people healthy and make people better. That's kind of what excites me about being here today.
And I think, this is our first beverage forum in Europe, and I think, 10 years from now when we're on number 10, I think what we want to do is create and foster this community like we have in the U.S. for entrepreneurs. Because in talking to many of you, it's not a badge of honor to be an entrepreneur here like it is in the U.S. In some respects, it's a little bit frowned upon, like who do you think you are, and wow, you're ambitious, and those types of things. And so that drives the need for community, and I think that's one of the legacies that will be left from the Beverage Forum. Jack, you mentioned exclusivity. Tell us more about your view of exclusivity.
Well, I think that back to the point, if we're going to put a foraging team together, the key is that we're bringing products in that people can't buy anywhere else. And if it arrives in our stores and 2 minutes later it's in Target and H-E-B and all around the country, what it does is it compromises our differentiated space. I actually think it's not. I think as I said earlier, I think it's beneficial for the brands to start exclusively in a smaller retailer. There's one or two other people that, Erewhon, we'd be okay if you're in Erewhon so it's not as hard and fast a rule as that, but the principle is that our customers are experiencing products that they can't buy anywhere else, and we want to have that for a period of time, and it does allow you to learn. It's one of the places that the brands can learn, and if things aren't quite right, they can tweak the ingredients or change the flavor, change the marketing. There's opportunities to learn in a small way and then evolve and grow. But we'd like to have like a year's exclusivity on products, and we'll get behind it from a marketing point of view and work very closely. If we don't get that kind of length of time, you don't get a chance to really work with the brands to make it work. So sometimes we find some brands that come in, and honestly, they just get a bit too eager to go elsewhere. And I don't think it's beneficial for the brand, and I don't think it's that beneficial. It's certainly not beneficial for us.
It's a healthy tension, right? Because the unintended consequence of being exclusive in Sprouts is Sprouts leans in with the brand, and therefore you're putting really good velocity numbers up on the board, and the natural entrepreneurial thing to do is take the velocity story and go sell it to other retailers. So that's a healthy tension, yeah. I think, that we're constantly working with Sprouts as, which is really interesting. What categories and segments in beverage are interesting or exciting to you right now?
Well, it's interesting talking about the foraging team and just a little bit about how we operate. We're trying to get further upstream than just the new products that you guys bring, and really understand the search end. DTC is a huge driver for what's happening in the direct-to-consumer space and what's happening in search even before that. How the data, AI is helping us understand the trends that are happening. Mushroom was a trend. Should we have been ahead of that? Ashwagandha was a trend. We should have been ahead of that trend. Adaptogens, how do you get ahead of those trends? And that's one of the things that we're working pretty hard on. I think mental health and a lot of the conversations in terms of how products in the beverage space can assist with mental health, I think is an interesting development that hasn't come quite as fast as some of the other things that have happened in the marketplace. We're kind of potentially excited about that as you focus in on the health enthusiast customers. This replacement of sugar is something that is, I think, fascinating. We were talking earlier, there's a little bit of a trend. Everyone went to no sugar. Now it's back to raw sugar, cane sugar. How can we get the flavor in the products while bringing the attributes, I think, is a challenge. And there's some products in here that are doing a pretty good job at trying to nail that. So we're kind of excited about the change in ingredients and attribute-based products that taste great. Because we can sell attribute products once, but you won't sell it twice if it doesn't taste great. But you guys all know that as well as I do.
You want to make someone's day? I have a question for you. Has there been anything that you've seen this week, any brands that you said, wow, I really want that in Sprouts?
Well, if I tell you that, then everyone else will want it, Danny. You got to be careful with that.
Thought I could catch you on that one.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna take you back, and then I'm gonna take you forward before we wrap it up. So when you joined Sprouts in 2019, what was your initial vision for how the company should evolve? So you inherited this business, and has the vision been changing since then, or is it still kind of how you first saw it?
Well, I think it's how we first saw it, really, because what you have in the Sprouts business, long before I was there and long after, there's a fantastic DNA that focuses in on healthier products. But we sell 20% of our sales as fresh produce. I don't know many other companies that have got that, grocery companies that have got that. So it's based on a fundamental DNA that if people eat well, they'll be healthier. And that fundamental principle is right at the heart of it. How to then understand that data so you segment it was the starting point. So we've evolved how we understand our customer. A health enthusiast customer isn't homogeneous. There's such a variety of it. There's people that are vegans, there's vegetarians, there's gluten-free, there's people with dairy allergens, there's people that want grass-fed beef, and there's a whole dynamic that our loyalty program is beginning to really open up how we get even better at segmenting that health enthusiast. So that would be the evolution. But the principle of our business is we're going to be focused on looking after a particular group of customers. We're not going to try and chase every dollar from every competitor. And what it does for it makes us a complementary retailer as opposed to a dramatic. We're not trying to win a trip from anybody. What we're trying to do is win a little bit of share of wallet as people pay a little bit more attention to what they're eating and what their families are eating. And that's the kind of mission and the purpose that we've got. So that stays the same. The execution of our strategy, we've evolved that in terms of the stores that you saw, the size of the stores that we're doing, made them a bit smaller. So that's been an execution thing, but the principle was the same. The marketing of our business has evolved dramatically and is going to become it's becoming much more digitally focused. And this is where AI is changing the world very quickly in terms of spending our media dollars more effectively. I'm kind of excited about how that's going to evolve. And our challenge as a company is we want to get, and this is relevant to our third-party distributors who are very important to us in the ambient and grocery space and in the beverage space. How do we evolve to become a better partner with our innovation suppliers by maybe taking responsibility for it ourselves? Should we invest a little bit in some brands, which might give us a better opportunity to really work the marketing magic together over time? I'm certainly really open to investing in. We've done a particular brand, which I won't tell you about, but we're excited about investing directly. We invest in some of the funds, as you know. So as we evolve our strategy, the strategy stays the same, but we're having to evolve it to be differentiated, to be better at marketing, to get ahead of the game in terms of products, in terms of attributes, and we'll need the support. I want to be better partners to the brands that are coming into our business. I think we do an okay job, but I want to be a better partner to get into
I
the
think
stores.
you're the most founder-friendly retailer, full stop. And I'm not saying that because you're here. I'm saying it because it's the facts. So you're experiencing a lot of growth. You've created a lot of wealth for your employees, your shareholders. You're opening up a new store every week, basically. How do you keep this going? Where are you heading in the future?
Well, we're going to build more stores. We're having a lot of fun with that, and we are opening stores all over the place. I'll say to the investment community, we're opening stores from sea to shining sea. Last week we opened one in St. George, Utah. We opened one this week in Woodbridge, New Jersey. And that's our traditional markets, California and Arizona, but we're spreading in Colorado. We're spreading out east pretty dramatically. Florida is exciting for us. There's a lot happening in Florida as people move into Florida. A lot happening in Arizona as well. A lot of migration happening in the US, and the type of customers that are moving around we're trying to track them. Our biggest challenge is building stores in the right place because we've identified the customer base, and then getting what we call Sprouties. The bar for grocery retail service is not high, and we want to try and evolve and develop so that we become, if you like, my kind of phrase is that we want to be the Nordstrom of grocery retailing. So there's a level of service that's better than what you would get traditionally. And that means we've got to recruit Sprouties. We've got to recruit, and that's hard. If I'm going to build 50 stores in Chicago, which we're planning to do, I need 50 store managers, 50 assistant managers, 50 deli managers, and they've all got to be Sprouties. That's 300 people I need pretty quickly. So the biggest challenge for us is getting the people in and the team members being in tune with who we are and what we're trying to do.
Awesome. Well, Jack, thank you so much for what you've done for our industry. Thanks so much for what you've done for the entrepreneurial founder community in the US. Thank you for what I think you're going to do as a result of this trip for Europe as things jump across the pond. We really appreciate you coming.
Well, thank you for having me. It's really exciting to be back in the United Kingdom and hearing Welsh voices and Scottish voices and English voices. It's very exciting for me.
Awesome. Thank you
Thanks
so much,
for being
sir.
here.